Konnichiwa, everyone. Well, got a new project here and a new hobby, I guess we should say. This is a little, I think this one's from the 80s. Let's see here. Yeah, this is a little mid-80s Coleman 502 camp stove that didn't cost much and is kind of cool looking actually. I actually have had some serious life changes in the past couple of years since I stopped doing videos a while back, but hey, we're getting back into it. And this is going to be our entry product. This is going to be our entry project to get into the new way of doing things. I decided I'm going to expand a little bit past just doing the woodworking stuff. I mean, we'll still do it. I've got some stuff over there that's in progress, but this stuff interests me just as much, and I actually needed a hobby instead of just doing, work at home and work at work, which is not really the healthiest way to do things. So anyway, we're actually going to take this thing apart, we're going to clean it up, and we're going to see if we can get the fire up. These are kind of bulletproof little stoves anyway, and shouldn't take too much, but I do love things having to do with brass, and I like some vintage stuff, and with this we've got all that going on there. And the traditional white paint, I can never understand why anything used that is from garages has at least one or two small bits of white paint on it. It's just it's like it's tradition or something like that. Well, as I was saying, it has been quite a while since I have done any project here on the channel, but I actually wanted to get back into it because while I enjoy family life and I enjoy being a dad and I enjoy being a husband and caretaker of the house, sometimes you just need a hobby. And frankly, hobbies are what keep us happy when things are crazy. This isn't my first time going around with one of these. I did have another one that I experimented with a little bit to kind of get a feel for it, and so I'm not looking like a total doofus. But typically these screws here are kind of rusted, so we got some good old PB blaster here that we're going to actually add to this. But like I was saying, life has been interesting, it has been challenging, and it has been very rewarding as well. Since I stopped doing this on the regular, I want to say 2 years ago? 2 or 3 years ago, something like that. We actually have had a second kid, so I am now the proud dad of not one, but two crazy little clones of myself and the wife. And life's been good with that, actually. We've had some ups, we've had some downs, as everybody does in marriage, and we've also had some big blessings occur. We now actually have family close by, which I can tell you that is the biggest and most wonderful thing you could possibly ask for with anything in life, is to have your family close by, provided you get along with them. If you don't get along with them, that's a totally different story in that case. So I don't know if I'll need to let this set overnight. This actually doesn't seem to be too rusty, it just seems to be dirty, which is an entirely different problem to have. But as I was saying, I actually wanted to do a hobby as opposed to something that was a side hustle. And what I realized was a lot of, oh yeah, those are going to come right out. That's actually a blessing there. Let's check this one too. Oh, look at that. That's actually loose. That doesn't typically happen like that, so that's going to be awesome in and of itself. So let's get this generator out of here. Well, as I was saying, I actually needed a hobby, and what was happening was I was actually making a side hustle out of making acoustic guitars for a few years. I started doing that right around 2020, and it worked out just fine. I made a couple. They were very well received by people. However, by the time 2022 came around, I was actually not enjoying it so much, because while I do like the idea of building an instrument and doing something kind of cool like that, I was actually working about 9 hours at my day job, which is also building I do instrument repair, guitars, mandolins, that sort of thing. I was actually doing that for 8-9 hours a day at my job, and coming home and doing another 3 to 4 hours wasn't really the healthiest way to go about things. So I was getting very short with the kids, very short with the wife, which is just not a good thing overall. And so I made the decision that I am going to have a hobby, if it'll cooperate with me. Why is this being... That's a mite stubborn there. The channel for me, when I first started doing it, was actually just for fun. It was actually a hobby, and so now that we seem to have come full circle, I am coming back to this to have something that's a nice break from the normal stuff, and I enjoy, you know, making these videos. I enjoy the editing, and hopefully you guys enjoy listening to my my sultry, sweet, foggy, kind of goose fart on a muggy day voice. But that being the case, why is this being so difficult? Let's see here. All right, now this, I don't want to be too rough with this thing. Why you fight me? Will you be so tough? Now typically when you take that bolt off the bottom there that you saw me do, that will allow this unit to come forward because it wedges it up against the little hook here. But that is not straight. That is very bent. So we're going to have to figure out a way to get that disconnected a little bit differently. You are supposed to pull this pipe off to the side, by the way, but it, there we go. It's still not moving, and I don't want to I don't want to break anything I don't have to. Boy, that for some reason is very stuck. I have another idea. Upon further review, I have determined that the problem is actually right here where the generator leads into the Bunsen. This seems rusted solid. So rather than try to manhandle that out of there, we're just going to apply a little bit liberally of this penetrating fluid here. Believe it or not, I had never used this stuff before a couple days ago, and I was very impressed with what it did. So we're just going to slowly add some here. It is kind of addictive to watch it go through the straw there. There we are. So some things that have changed in my life are actually, I seem to have developed a little bit of a speech impediment since I got sick with the lovely virus that everybody got sick with in 2020. And I can't really figure out why that happened. It just sort of is what it is. But if you if you hear me stumbling over some words that, you know, more so than I normally do, that's partially why. I'm not saying everything's to blame other than the fact I'm just an idiot sometimes, but in general I have noticed that my language skills have dropped a little bit since then, so you know, you gotta take it for what it is. Not much you can do about it sometimes. I was just thinking about I should probably let this sit like so to kind of get some of that fluid down in there. Streams of rust release. Alright, well, we're gonna let that sit for, I guess, a day. I actually the way my schedule works now, the only time I have to do anything is actually in the morning before I go to work. So I'm setting this up to soak while I'm at work, and yeah, we'll come back to it 9 hours later, and we'll see what we got going on. All right, 24 hours later of soaking in some penetrating fluid, and we're gonna see if we can possibly get this to come apart. Sometimes rust makes life very, very, very corroded. Oh, well, we couldn't do that before. Let's see. Just try. Oh, there we are. Oh, okay. Wow, that is definitely corroded. All right, let's see if we can get this apart here. Oh. Okay, that's going to be more difficult than I thought. There we are. Wow, that was definitely on there in one way, shape, or form. They were going to make that stick. So in fiddling with this, there is a spring in there, which, you know, there should be, but it is apparently it's bent along with the generator tube itself. So I think, considering that I want to use this stove, the best thing we should do is actually get it replaced entirely. There we go. I'm going to apply a little bit liberally to these here. Let's see what we can... Ah, yes, that was much easier. Didn't even fight me one bit. Maybe I was just doing it wrong. There is always that possibility. You know, I think I'm going to get lucky with this one because, from what I understand, this right here typically does not come out with zero effort like that. It requires a little bit more elbow grease, and typically you got to take one of these and do this with it. Grab it and then pull it around. Or I'm pretty sure you could get like a like an oil filter wrench and put it over the top of that, but I don't need to do either of those things, thankfully, which is quite rare from my understanding. We put that in our little bin of things. That is delicious. And then these particular screws here actually thread into the tank. Yeah, they're not even tight on this thing either. If there's no need to add stuff, then don't add anything. This comes out as one piece. Should, there we go. And your Bunsen comes out this way. Collar ring. And that was the problem earlier. That is mighty corroded in there, so fun, fun, fun. That'll work. And through the power of editing, this actually did come off. I hate myself because sometimes I forget how to work this camera, and I forgot to hit record when it popped off, but it worked just fine. It came off just well, and we already got this cleaned up. And I did skip ahead a little bit. We replaced the valve gasket, not valve gasket, it's this little thing here. We replaced the gasket on the filler cap here, so that is done. We also replaced the air stem and the check valve, which is this baby here. All that is good. We're going to throw away that because it is not working properly, and we're going to reinstall this. I just cleaned this thing out with a little bit of carb cleaner and a brush and a little bit of cleaning solution, so it should be just fine. I'm not a big fan of making things look brand new, like you're restoring it to its original condition. This thing was made in '83, so it is significantly older than a lot of the stuff that I have in certain cases, but the fact is, if you were born in '83, you would not look brand new, shiny. Oh yeah, that's just coming off real nice there. Shiny, clean, no chips, no cracks, no whatever. That looks much better. Luckily, that was all just dirt and maybe a little bit of food oil, because this thing has been used. It's got some heat marks on it, but we're not going to worry about that for the time being. And like so. Wait a minute, forgot the little pot holder thing. And we got to get these itty bitty screws lined up. Put down there. Focus. A pro reassembly tip: anytime you have something where you do not want to strip the threads out, or you have fine threads, as you do on this, before you start turning clockwise, turn to the left or counterclockwise. Hear that click? Do it again here. Hear that click? That's actually what you're looking for, because that's the tip of that thread engaging with the threads in the hole, and that will ensure that you never cross thread anything in your whole life if you follow that one simple rule. There we are. That one was pretty loud. Okay. There we go. I'm just going to reassemble the rest of this a little bit off camera, just because my camera is about to die and I don't feel like waiting around for the battery to recharge, so see you in a bit. Okay, so I got everything reassembled and we skipped forward into the future here a bit. I went ahead and did a little test burn. That's why you see a little bit of scoring there. We did get a flame, however, it was a really big yellow flame. And if you're not familiar with that, any sort of gas stove or gas appliance that uses fuel to burn, if you have a yellow flame, that means that there is actually an excess of fuel and your fuel to oxygen mixture isn't right. So you need a blue flame, which is ideal. In diagnosing that, typically that means there's a clog somewhere. So I realized I hadn't cleaned out the Bunsen, which is this little thing here. And so to clean that, it was just a little pipe cleaner, just bent it and kind of pushed it through. There was a good size, probably a spider web in there. Pretty common apparently. But now that that's out, we're going to deal with the last piece, which is the grate. This thing is a little bit bent, but this metal's pretty soft, so we're not going to do anything other than just bend it back by hand a little bit here. There we go. Yeah, that's a little better. You just want it relatively flat so that it can hold whatever you're putting on it. So I think that that will do just fine right there. And for some reason it's got red paint on it, and I don't want there to be red paint on this thing, so get a little abrasive something and get that cleaned off. Not going to do anything complicated here, just a little bit of grinding. A wire wheel would be very nice right now, but I don't have one. I would say that that is an improvement. Now there's one last thing we're going to do before we light this up that I think is important to tell you about. Let's get you in focus here. Focus. There we go. And that is a pressure test. So what a pressure test is, well, I mean, it's in the name. Basically, we're going to build up some pressure here so that where it's appropriate, and then we're going to tighten up the pump, and all we're going to do is we're just going to listen. And I'm listening here, I'm listening here, here. Just listening for any sort of sound of hissing or gas escaping or anything like that. Listening around the cap. Anything around this where there's actually a connection being made. That's where you want to listen, because you do not want to light this up with a leak, because a gas leak plus fire equals big boom. And you don't want that in your face, that's for sure. So let's get these screwed back on. It looks like I need to bend it just a little bit more. That ought to work. Bendy. Do the bends. It's just not lining up quite right on that one. Here we go. That is a fully assembled 502 stove, and it's been up to pressure for a few minutes now and I don't hear anything. And one thing you can do as well, if you have a rag, to check for any leaks, just listen when you turn the valve a little bit. Okay, fuel's coming out of there. Didn't see anything coming out of here. Let me get this to focus. There we go. So no leaks, no wet spots or anything through there. And the fuel is only coming through here. So I say, let's take this outside and let's light it up and see if we got some good blue flame. Not sure if you can see it, but there is a tiny bit of blue flame coming around those screws there, which means they probably need to be tightened up a little bit. So let's do that, and then let's relight and see what we get. Okay, they're tightened up. Let's go for take two here. Alright, that's a lot better. Alright, well, seems like it's doing its job. Let's test this thing here. As a side note, the heat waves are indicative of how much heat this is actually putting out, so that's kind of a neat effect to have early in the morning. Alright, well, I'd like to cook something, but I don't have anything to cook because I already made breakfast. So we're back inside, and this thing is still hotter than hot as all get out. So it's cool enough. You could probably touch it if you really hated your hands. But anyway, that is the complete rebuild of this stove. I didn't go into too much detail because I actually just needed a hobby. Because if you read my post from a couple months back, or actually maybe when this video launches, it might be just a month or so, I was working too hard and I was doing the same thing at home that I was at work. And so finding something like, you know, these and the YouTube channel is actually a good thing, because it means I actually have a hobby, which means I am mentally happier and healthier than I have been in a long time. And trust me, that is a good thing, especially when you have children. Part of taking care of yourself should be mental health along with physical health. You know, there's, you know, two sides of the same coin there. I know this isn't my usual stuff, but I got other Japanese stuff planned. We're gonna tune up some chisels, we're gonna tune up some planes probably, build some stuff. I've got tons of honeydew projects that still need to be done. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the support that you've shown me over the years. If any of my old fans are watching this, know that I love you and you're awesome. Hope you guys have an awesome day. Arigatou gozaimasu. Sayonara.